TelecomTV, where ICT connects.
Hello, I'm Martyn Warwick from TelecomTV, reporting from California at ETSI's fourth meeting of its NFV ISG. And I've been asking some interviewees about the service provider impact. Now, there's a lot of hype around here about the benefits that will accrue to service providers if vendors simply follow the dots and they get the NFV environment they're asking for. But there's also no doubt that there are some huge challenges ahead, technical, cultural, and in terms of the business model. I asked about some of the potential sticking points.
NFV has the potential to change and potentially disrupt the business model and the supply model within the telecoms business. But that's also an opportunity, because we're here in Silicon Valley, we're here in Santa Clara, and the innovation that comes from here, the operators now, through the use of a common virtualized infrastructure, have the ability to bring innovation from some new companies to operate in conjunction with their existing partners.
I would say that the biggest challenge is cultural at the moment. Just precisely what I said before, that where do you go to with this service that's software? You know, do you the network guys or is it the IT guys? And then you say, well, we're going to have to deploy computers. They say, okay, where do you want to put them? In our central offices. Do they have 24 volts? Are they NEBS compliant? Are they protected against nuclear pulses? And no, they're just computers. So we get into this world of two cultures sort of coming together, and it's quite difficult because you don't really know who to have the right conversation with. And when you talk about hypervisors and moving things about, the network guy says, "And what size plug do I use?" Yeah, so it's a very different. And I think the biggest complexity, really, when you're talking about these services, is really that challenge of cultures and organisation.
The thing that I think concerns a lot of operators, as I've talked to them, is not so much the function, even though they believe that the function will come up to speed with a specific function equipment. What they're concerned about is the operating environment. This is a new world, right? And how do we begin to operate in this world? Because now I've got a world that could morph not at manual speeds, but at machine speeds. And if all of a sudden I begin to do things like fault analysis in a world that was, how do I track the then current world that was when I'm trying to solve and do root cause analysis? How do I begin to manage a world that is changing at machine speeds rather than manual reconfiguration? I'm not talking about taking days and weeks to reconfigure the network. I'm talking about, minutes to reconfigure the network. And so it can morph very quickly. That's one of the biggest challenges that we see. And so we call that, this idea of real-time OSS, or OSS as the network occurs, right? How do I track that as the network occurs, not after the fact, not historically, right, but as it occurs? And I think one of the keys to that is how do we create an OSS that can be real-time and also be ahead of real-time? And I think that's where we're going to see analytics come into play, and I think that's going to be a critical part of this as well, because analytics then will give me the ability to not only see the patterns that I can't see today, but also begin to predict those things that I can't see. And that's going to become critical because I can't move at machine speeds. I'm going to have to move ahead of machine speeds. So I think those are going to be critical things, the real-time OSS and the analytics.
What I have seen is that service providers are now doing things like appointing CITOs and CTIOs. And what I'm also seeing is that usually it's the software guy that seems to get the job. So I'm actually seeing the ascendancy of the CIO in a new world. And what is also then interesting is that there's an evolution of thought that goes on. The CIO comes in and says, this networking is really simple. Network's just bits of wires, and I know about data centers and things are really complicated. 6 months later, you walk into the same person and you have the discussion, it's tight to fit these networks. There's a lot more to them than a tin can and a piece of string. Oh, my God, this is really... And you can actually see the evolution, and you see these network guys who are around, and they say things like computers, bits of PCs and things, and the network, oh, my God, that's a complicated world. And, of course, they start coming together, these computers, and they start having to implement them and do things think it's not quite as simple as I thought. You know, it's not quite a PC. There's a lot more involved, and I've started to learn about hypervisors and things, and they start to get an understanding of this. Oh God, this is quite exciting. Never thought you could do this. And you see these cultures coming together, and the interesting thing is fantastic is usually after that initial period of everybody, you know, starting from where they start, you see a great excitement amongst people and a great enthusiasm for this technology.
TelecomTV, where ICT connects.